not what I would call, making it a need to invest in having that size space. So there may be some ways to reduce the size, which would hopefully reduce the cost and maybe put it more back in line to closer to what we thought it might have been.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? Mike, it seems like that's at least a little bit of an attitude. You're getting a sense of the attitude of the different counselors.
At some point, you'll need to actually authorize their design work. Now, the contract that we're going to use, we talked about that at the last meeting, that it's a form that we spent quite a bit of time modifying during the Public Works Garage project. And I don't have that ready for you right now to actually read through and vote on. But you've already approved that language. So if you're willing to just, do some sort of head nodding motion that the price and the scope of work that they're providing looks right, then we'll let them know. And I've already asked them to get the B-133 form that we talked about last time prepared for us.
Well, my take on it is that I'd like to see the budget come down from where it is right now. But as far as the gist of the plan that we have, I appreciate the plan. Now, I also don't want this to be basically like me saying, like, I want it all, but I don't want to pay for it, because I totally understand there's a correlation between those two things. So I don't know how we can take that to the next level or not, but.
Can I agree with Jay. I mean, I do think it makes sense to move forward, but I'm a little hesitant on the creeping number. And of course, more than likely when we actually see the real drawings and all that, it probably will be higher. On the last page of McGough's report, it's like Morse code.
Yeah.
And that shows like the percentage breakdown. I think it's important, the list of things that are included in exclusions as they work through things. But I'm just wondering, for me, it would be helpful to see, where are some of those, like what is the one that's 86%? And what is the one that's 0.01%? I don't know. That would be helpful for me, and not that I don't know what we would do with that. It just seems like good information, maybe.
I saw that too. I don't want to vote and talk about something when I don't have the full information.
Are you saying it's not legible?
No.
Just
It's all dotted out.
Let me see if I can share my screen and show it to you. I've got two computers running right now, so it'll just take me a moment.
I agree, Anton.
Well, I mean, even the FF&E is, I mean, I don't even know. Wait, I don't know. Can we get, is it $100,000 or is it $300,000? I know it's not included in the number, but.
Well, and there's a lot of exclusions listed on that thing from McGough too, and that's one of the things that I would really appreciate to know what those exclusions, what the primary tally or like a preliminary tally for what those exclusions would cost the city as well, because I've been like looking at some of those exclusions. We're probably talking another $1 million worth of exclusions. So
is this the sheet you're looking for?
Yes,
that definitely is not the one we got.
that is the one we were looking for.
Okay. Can you see everything on here?
Yes.
I just tried to scroll down on your screen, Mike.
Sorry, there is
Can't
no
do that.
scroll down.
That's it right there?
Yeah, there's more. That's the second half.
I did too, Jay. Don't feel bad.
Tell me what you'd like to look at, and I'll send it up to there.
No, I think that's good. I mean, so that makes sense that 86% line was a subtotal line. So that
Right.
is helpful to know.
Can you go back
Yeah.
up to the top, Mike?
Let's look at that. That's where all the action is.
Yeah. So is
Mike-
that,
Not the exclusions aren't nothing, right? I mean, there's most of the building is included in this. The FF&E is just, and let me see what they said about that.
Can you scroll it down just a bit so we can see that red bar, what it says?
The other direction.
Other direction, right at the top. There you go. If you
Got it.
There we go.
is that, am I recollecting right? Were we looking at the 16,000 square foot number?
I thought we were looking at like a 14,000 square foot number, weren't we?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm trying to remember back to those other meetings, but 16, I felt that seems big.
No, this is what we were looking at.
Okay.
Drawing D, right?
I still think there's an opportunity to make it smaller.
Yeah, if we didn't have those extra offices for AEOA and the chamber and EDA, could we minimize then the size of the lobby too? I mean, it seems like that was where there's a lot of wasted space, having that lobby that makes a corridor to access those additional offices.
Yeah, I think that's good questions.
Mm-hmm.
So if we enter into this contract, because we hadn't set anything in stone, we still have the ability to all that and bring it down, right?
I think for the sake of things, though, yeah,
I'm going to
Yeah.
stop sharing my screen now, if that's all right.
sure. For the sake of the work that they're going to put in, though, I think it's just important to make sure that maybe we clarify or try and finalize our own thoughts on what it is that we want. If we're seeing these numbers based on this, does it make sense for us not to slow things down, but to like take the time to say like, okay, let's go 50 people in the council chambers and downsize that, like let's eliminate these extra offices short of maybe some flexible space that should the need arise, we can use that. It can be used for other meetings. Some of those things, I mean, at 16,000 square feet and $5.5 million with many things not accounted for. I don't know. I have to turn my calculator sideways, I think, to get that big of a number on there, but.
Right. I think that those are all probably things we should investigate. If it is the will of the council to that we look at ways that we can cut the budget down, then what that's going to mean is that's going to mean a smaller facility with less stuff going on inside of it.
I mean, as a quick, based on their ballpark or on their numbers, it's like 348 or something. It's 345, somewhere like that per square foot. So if you'd knocked off 2,000 square feet, that's a savings of $687,000. I don't know if we have 2,000 square feet within that, within the lobby, within those offices, within some of those things that what we've talked about here tonight to do that. But at least then our starting off point in kind of you know, I mean, and some of those things, I don't know. Yeah.
I think between the lobby and the offices, there's more than 2,000 square feet. The council chambers is about 2,000 square feet right now. So I think like I said, there's still significant ability to make this building smaller if we're willing to give up some of the things that were in it, like offices for other tenants, some of that public space, some of the room in the council chambers.
Yeah. I would be, I mean, yeah, because geez, if you can, you know, if you could knock it down to 13,000, say 14 or even 13,000 square feet, that's a significant. Obviously, there's going to be some costs that are kind of fixed, you know, with demolition and with infrastructure and those kinds of things. But everything else we can do to save square footage is just going to be a savings. And I feel a little hesitant at the current number to say go. I also don't want to be the one that's like slows this down, because I do think it's super important for us to do. I think that all of the things happening right now has made it harder for us to maybe focus and talk more about it, because of, despite meeting every week instead of every other week, I feel like it's, you know, it's just different. So, and I do think that the realization, like Tim had brought up, of how things are being conducted now, it kind of changes maybe what those needs are going to be. Instead of using assumptions of partner groups wanting to join in, you know, it seems like more of a, well, let's maybe plan, like I say, like some flex space if there is something that happens in the future or there is growth, but not to just assume that now, because, you know, it seems like that's changed. It's changed in the last 3 months. So anyway, I'll shut up, but that's my
well, and Anton, to extend on what you're saying, I don't disagree with what you're saying, and I do think that, you know, the number gives us cause to actually slow down and think about what exactly we're talking about here. Those office spaces, you know, that was obviously a pretty premium thing that we definitely wanted, not something that we specifically needed. As far as flex space, I do think that we could probably still have there be some flex space inside that building, for additional meeting rooms and for, you know, even potentially a future office if we saw so fit. But for now, I think that what you're saying is going down the right avenue to say that, can we constrict the city hall part of that building to make it, you know, a couple thousand square feet smaller, because the savings on that are actual. And we know that that's, you know, we're not going to really be able to get that $340 some a square foot number down too much, just because of the quality of construction we're talking about. But in decreasing the actual size of the building is really where we're going to see savings. I think that's the right tactic.
I mean, and I don't want to come off of what we were talking about previously with, this is also a lifetime project, you know, much like doing sewer lines. So I don't want to not be thoughtful about like the choices that we make to do that. But again, if you use those numbers and you can find 2,500 square feet of savings, like that is $840,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that gets us, I mean, it's a lot of money.
Back where we want to be.
And maybe it isn't, I'm sorry, Kelly, I'll shut up, but maybe it isn't that, you know, those are just like numbers and looking at what that difference makes. And it really does change my like enthusiasm, because I am excited for it, but I'm not as excited for it with everything happening at $5.5 million, knowing it's going to be more. And I think I could support more wholeheartedly and still be excited about it. Trying to think a little smarter and a little harder on the design and be able to stand behind it.
Right. Kelly?
The other thing I think about and I'm for reducing space and moving forward, but then we also have to work with the contractors, I think, in planning that okay, so we're kind of planning for now and maybe the next 5 years in City Hall space. I think we're looking forward much more for the liquor store, as we should, because that's a great source of revenue for the city. But as we look at City Hall, you know, what can it do for us now, maybe in the 5, 6, 7, 8 year future? And then how do we plan it so that if in 10 years we need to do something somewhat robust, we still have a south area we can move into? I mean, I know it's a parking lot, but it is ours that we can make some choices and changes. You know, maybe I know that we want the bathrooms visible for public, but is there signage that we could do to move the bathrooms maybe to a different spot so that if we want to actually spread our wings in 10 years and move out, that we can do that? So I just think we have some opportunity to go back and revisit things, save money right now where we need to, but leave some space that, you know, in 10 years, another council can make some decisions based upon what's happening then.
Yeah, I think you're right on, Kelly. I think there's an ability for us to still maintain a little flexibility outside the space that we build, as long as we're intentional about that. And I think I've heard enough from you all to know how to have the conversation on Friday. So if there's still some hesitancy to take any official action on this right now, then I'll just communicate that to LHB. And of course, this is a public meeting that they'll be able to watch and they can see exactly where you're all coming from. But that we want to see the fruits of some of that cost reduction conversation. And we also, of course, need to see the actual contract be produced. So hopefully they'll still be willing to jump into this, knowing where you are in the process. And we'll report back after that meeting.
Are we looking for a motion to move forward with this? Is that needed tonight?
Well, it's not technically. I think, maybe Anton brought up earlier that the architects are going to be investing and, beyond what we've already hired them to do from this point out, their time in this project. And I don't think that's unfair of us to ask them to do based on where we're at on it. But if you knew for sure that you wanted to do this, that you still want to move forward with the design process, and you've got some parameters about how you want to see it go and some direction about things you want them to work on, but you're going to do it, I think that sort of a motion would be welcome anyway. But like I said, if you're not ready for that, that's what I'll communicate to LHB, and I'll expect them to continue based on where we're at.
What does everybody think about that? And kind of where we're at?
I'd like to see us continue to move forward. So I'm just trying to think. Trying to think of what I want to say to a motion.
Well, I don't know if we necessarily need to have a motion. It's kind of, we could just do a head nod thing. And then, and then just have Mike move forward with that understanding. I agree with you, Kelly. I feel like we should continue to move forward. I feel like there's the time is as close to right as it's going to be for us to be taking on this project, and that we probably just need to do a little bit of tweaking on the design so that we can make sure that it's the right cost for the city and provides the right things. So that's where I'm at. Anybody else? Thoughts? Comments? Well, I think we'll probably just take that silence as a summary of what we had said before, a summary of the conversation. Mike, do you feel like you're in a comfortable place to move forward with the conversations?
As much as can be. I can work with that.
Okay. Well, we're going to let you work with that then. All right. So we're going to move on. Pull up the letter that we got, or the I guess it's a letter and an application from Grand Marais LLC for an application for a temporary sidewalk cafe for Grand Marais restaurant. So what they're looking to do is they're looking to to put up, I believe, four tables? I have to read through for specifics. They're looking at doing tables in front of their building, their Grand Marais building, socially distanced, so that they can continue to offer at least some service out front of their building. I believe he said there were 4 tables that they could fit out there, and they also would like to do alcohol service there. So the questions that we have to take a look at is what are the requirements that we have to have them for liquor serving in an outdoor space like that, and are there any other things that we need to consider with the street light in its current location in that area? So that's my understanding of it. Mike, I don't know if you want to add any additional thoughts to that for our consideration. Oh, mute.
Does everybody have the photo that I sent earlier?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Okay. I'll put it up.
So I really, because this came late and I had no chance to see anything till I think it was about 6 o'clock. I don't feel like I have enough information, or I've even been given a chance to think about this.
Well, let's talk a little bit about it and see if we can get anywhere. This is one of those issues where everything's just come up so fast, and if we spend the time that an issue like this is really due, they might be already back to service inside the building by the time we would give thoughtful consideration to it. This is the front of the building, and there are the plan is to put 2 tables that take about half of the sidewalk on each side of the door. And so I'll put that up as well.
Yeah, so they're talking about
So here's the
4 tables.
Here's the door, and then they would have 2 tables on this side where the street light is here, 2 tables on this side. They're saying these are 4-foot tables, and this is 9.5 feet from the curb to the full extent of their building. So I've got some major concerns about this because this space right here, if we go back to the photo image, is going to be pretty tight with a 4-foot table, and I'm not sure how to maintain pedestrian traffic through there and allow them to have tables in that sidewalk area. On the other hand, they've been given no good options on how to try and continue their business, and the state's telling restaurants and really cities to be flexible and thoughtful about how we can help them do what the state's allowing, which is, at least for the next 2 weeks starting June 1st, provide outdoor seating and regular service. Beyond just the accessibility and pedestrian access issues, they'll be serving alcohol outside on our public right-of-way. And so I know Chris sent me a note that he's dealt with this, or has been asked to deal with this with some of his other cities, so can probably get us up to speed fairly quickly on an emergency ordinance and license. But again, I don't know how to put that in front of you with no notice and no chance to read any of it. So I haven't asked them to do that yet. And I thought instead, let's just talk about the concept and see what we want to do. I have not had any other restaurants approach me about this. I think maybe the other ones have some ability to provide outdoor service, or they're not intending to. And but I haven't heard from any of the other restaurants in town that they would like to do this.
I can certainly sympathize with the businesses, wanting to try to get open and, offer some level of service that is other than just strict takeout, especially for visitors. yeah, I'm uncomfortable about giving some kind of a open-ended license, but, I would be open to a short-term permit of some sort that would allow them to do something in this period of time, provided we can come up with some standards that we think are reasonable for the use of our sidewalks. I mean, I think social distancing is important. Whether 4 tables is workable, I really couldn't tell you. I mean, I've been up and down that street enough times, and I know that there's a little bit more depth because the angle of that building, it's kind of indented towards the doorway, so the sidewalk's a little bit wider than the normal sidewalk, but still, whether you can get 4 tables in there and do it and still maintain social distances on the sidewalk, I'm not sure. Maybe we allow 2 or 3 tables, to just give them that option. I'd like to hear from Chris too about just the liability side that the city might be taking on. And I know we've issued licenses to other businesses for putting things on the city sidewalk, but I don't know that we've ever given anybody permission to actually run their business on the city sidewalk.
Right. I do think that there are ways that we can do that, and I do think that offering a or creating some guidelines that restaurants could attend, could abide by, and then operate in such a manner until they're allowed to open back up and operate inside. I do view that as something that we could do in an emergency way. And I do think that for for a lot of the food businesses, food restaurant businesses that we have in the city, this is a very real existential threat for them right now. So anything that we can do, I think, is really a big perk. I guess maybe Mike, maybe what you were saying before is the right thing to do, that you and Chris sit down and have a conversation and draft some language and have it ready for a future meeting, like a soon future meeting. But the one question I have, maybe Chris, since you're on the call, if we're doing alcohol or liquor service on a street like that, is there a need for an enclosure to it?
There isn't a need for an enclosure necessarily. They would have to have some expansion of their liquor license premises, which has to be compact and contiguous to the business. I have 6 or 7 cities that have requested assistance on this from us already. And so because of the number of cities that requested assistance, we decided that we were going to try to develop one sort of process to do this, as opposed to trying to develop 6 or 7 different processes based on what each individual city wanted, because the time frame is so tight here. And so what we ended up doing was put together an emergency ordinance that basically authorized the use of the sidewalk. Some of these cities also want to authorize the use of parking spaces to allow some of the restaurants to use that as another expansion area for and both for service of food as well as sale and consumption of alcohol. Some cities have also looked at wanting to include potential street closures as well. So there are a number of different options that could be, put in an emergency regulation like this. And so the document that we've developed includes a lot of these options in it as optional things that the city could either choose to include or not. Now, coupled with that is also a license agreement. And the ordinance generally allows use of the sidewalk. It has certain requirements in it for, maintaining ADA accessibility along the sidewalk and doing those kinds of things. But we wanted to make the process a relatively administratively simple process as well, so that, city staff did not have, 20 different applications that we have to process. So the license agreement is primarily related to those businesses that want to sell liquor. The ordinance basically gives non-liquor selling businesses the opportunity to use the sidewalk. And like, for example, in a couple of the cities, they not only wanted to be able to have restaurants do this, but they wanted to have some of the just local retailers so that they could put, racks of clothing out on the sidewalk or, something to that effect. So there are a number of options, and I can certainly provide Mike, the emergency regulation that we put together, as well as the license agreement, and we could have some discussions about that. And I can certainly share that with you too, Jay, if you and Mike want to try and think about, working through some of that, so you guys can talk about that. And then, again, I think you still have a special meeting set up for next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think add this to the agenda for next week, and you can act on it next Wednesday. If it's something that you want to do, of course.
I think it's a pressing enough thing that we should be prepared to take action on it if there's something that we can do. That's I do feel pretty strongly about that. We also, we should also be aware that the business owners on that stretch of First Street or First Avenue West, from Wisconsin Street to Highway 61, they're all in conversation right now about requesting street closure for that street, which is something that we can talk about at a later date. But I also just wanted to make sure that we were aware that that's something that those businesses are talking about. So
Jay,
go ahead.
If they do that, and I'm sorry to break in, whatever we do, I think we should decide to do it and keep it fair. So if we were going to close First Avenue for those businesses, are we then going to close Wisconsin for the rest of them? And are we going to close Broadway? You know what I mean? So whatever we do, I think we should try to be as fair as we can. Grand Marais has come forward with us now and asked for permission, which is awesome. But as we plan, then I think we should think about, we have Gunflint Tavern who could ask, maybe south of the border would ask, maybe Spinoli's. I don't know if I'm missing anybody. Birch Terrace has the ability to serve outside already. So I think we need to plan for those others that could come forward so that we're not being inclusive to certain groups or businesses. You know what I mean?
I think if we can get that information from Chris, and that it basically becomes like, here's our, based on these times, like this is our new procedure, right? So it's like, here, you show us these things that you're going to meet these requirements that allows it to take place on the public right away, and then we still would have to do it case by case, right? But we're not setting up the bar is the same all the way across.
Right.
And it might be potentially because of where their location is that they can't maybe meet some of those requirements, but we're not just like yes, no, yes, yes, right? It's based on an understanding of what is going to protect the city ultimately, and hopefully allow them to be able to try and open back up for the safety of people and the survival of their business. So I think it's just important to be uniform.
Okay.
One other thing just to cover with Tim had asked a question about liability issues, and the regulation that we put together has both, basic insurance requirement as well as an indemnification requirement. So if there's a use of the right of way for this purpose, these businesses presumably have some level of liability insurance that they carry, and that they would be required to indemnify the city if there's claims related to their use. So we would be covering that too, Tim.
Okay.
Yeah, and related to that, I would want to make sure that, if we did allow a business to operate on city right away, that they be required to, manage their own trash, not using the city's green trash containers, expect the city to take care of that. That at the end of every day, or at least during periodically, that they would make sure that they would clean the sidewalk if that's what they're using, to make sure that there isn't litter and whatever that would be a burden to the city.
Okay, so Chris, can you work on that and get some, Chris and Mike, you can work on some of that and that language and bring it back to us next Wednesday or thereabouts?
We'll
Yeah,
give it to you.
I can send Mike something, right away tomorrow morning.
Cool.
And we'll have a packet for next Wednesday then that will have you tomorrow or Friday morning, so you can take a look at these things before you have to think about it.
Great. That sounds wonderful. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for that conversation. Any further comments on that? All right. So the next agenda item that we have on this meeting is to discuss some legal strategy regarding a pending litigation in the matter of Mike's Holiday Incorporated versus the state of Minnesota et al., which includes the city of Grand Marais. This portion of the properly noticed regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Grand Marais will be closed pursuant to Minnesota Statutes Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3B, under the attorney-client privilege exception to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. City's need for confidentiality outweighs the purposes served by the open meeting law in this case, based on the following. Absolute confidentiality is necessary so that the city council and legal counsel can have a candid and open discussion to determine the available legal options to handle the pending litigation, including strategy at any possible areas of resolution. The purpose of the closed meeting is not to make a decision behind closed doors, but instead to determine the legal options for handling the referenced pending litigation. The only business to be discussed in this portion of the meeting is the pending litigation. That's pretty important. An open session would be detrimental because it may take place in the presence of individuals involved in the pending litigation, and a closed session would benefit the public because the ultimate outcome of the pending litigation may impact the finances and regulatory authority of the city. So now I would entertain a motion to close the portion of the meeting pursuant to statute 13D.05 subdivision 3B.
Before that happens,
Yeah.
We're going to be ending the recording for the closed session, and it's probably best if we don't try to start it up again and continue business after this.
Yes.
So if there's any other business you wanted to try and conduct at this meeting, can we do that before you make a motion to close the meeting?
Okay. I guess I was just assuming that we didn't have any additional business.
I'm hoping you don't, but I just wanted to make sure and ask, just in case there was somebody who had something they wanted to mention.
That's fair. Anyone? Kelly, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to ask, did you get a letter sent out to the county administrator and,
And the engineer, yes, we did send them a note right after the last meeting. I haven't heard back from them yet. I'll send them another note tomorrow.
Okay. In the meantime, can we at least fill potholes? Is that something people are amenable to, or what do people think?
I think that's kind of been our practice for the last couple of years, hasn't it? Been just to go up and kind of spot fill when it gets real bad.
Can we use like tar or hot patch instead of gravel? Because I mean, I have no idea what that costs to go through there, and obviously we're not going to make it smooth, but there's some that are about 6 inches deep and 3 feet across that will swallow the front of a car. So I don't know.
Well, I would like to see at least gravel. If it's not a huge problem, if we do have a source for a hot patch. I do know that when we're hot patching holes like that, that does require a significant amount of labor to dig them out and to get them to a place where the hot patch will actually sit on something. So I'm with Kelly. We just need to do something to get that road more serviceable in the meantime. So if the answer is hot patch and we spend a day out there preparing holes and filling them, then I'm cool with that. If that means let's just put some gravel in it until we hear back from the county, I think that that's workable as well. Not as good, obviously, but workable. So, does that work?
Do we need a motion for it, or can we just direct them to do that?
I don't even know what you'd want to be in a specific motion, so I hear you.
Yep, I
Okay.
think
We'll
that's
talk to the
best
street
thing to
guys tomorrow and we'll figure something out.
start. Okay.
Thank you, and tell them thank you.
We'll
Yep.
do.
Anything else? All right, seeing nothing. All right, so then let's. I would entertain a motion to close the session pursuant to all the things I read before.
I make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? All right, so we're gonna do our roll call just like we did before. Your vote, Anton,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. So the motion carries. City Council will now go into a closed session. The time currently is, what does it say on our stream? 8:12.
All right, give me just a minute here, Jay.
8. You can just say 8:12. I still have some more
You
stuff
can
to
keep
go
reading.
Yeah. Only the officials and consultants of the city who reasonably require access to this data may be in attendance at any portion of the meeting for this agenda item. This portion of the meeting should not be taped or otherwise electronically recorded since it has been closed under attorney-client privilege. The minutes of this portion of the meeting should reflect only that a meeting was held, its time and location, who was present at the meeting, and the purpose of the meeting. In addition to the city council, the following persons are present for the closed meeting. We have Mike Roth, he's the city administrator. We have Kim Dunsmore, the finance director. We have Chris Hood, city attorney. And I don't see Patrick on this. Is he going to step out too?
No, he'll be here.
Okay, so maybe we should add him to that list. Patrick Knight, communications director. So
Then you're good, Jay. We can,
Yep.
at this point, stop the tape, stop the video, and have our closed session discussion.